So welcome everyone to the NISS Virtual Academic Career Fair. My name is Elizabeth Slate. I'm a professor at the Department of Statistics at Florida State University. And this is an exciting panel discussion about an academic career. We have three panelists from leading departments of statistics, biostatistics, and data science. And this is an opportunity to kind of explore what's important as you're considering jobs in the academia in our field of statistics and data science. I'd like to take a quick opportunity here at the beginning just to let everybody know that here at Florida State, we are also hiring in the next cycle here. This slide is telling you that we have 3 tenure track assistant professor positions starting next fall. I have the job ID if you search our jobs in the upper right of the slide, and I just want to give you a sense that Tallahassee, Florida is a beautiful, sunny, warm location. On the left is an image of Tallahassee. On the right is an image of the statistics building. Our department occupies this entire building on campus. And below is just a pretty image. The building in the background is where the president of FSU resides. And our department tries very hard to provide a protective environment for new assistant professors so that they can develop their research program. Along those lines, we offer a reduced teaching load for 5 years. We have a mentoring program. And of course, we feel we offer a competitive salary and startup package. An advantage of our location, I think, is that we have biostatistics, statistics, and data science programs all in the same department. And if you join our faculty, you'd be joining 25 tenured or tenure track faculty who are already here. We also have 3 specialized faculty that do a huge amount of our undergraduate teaching. We have a rich series of research programs, machine learning, high dimensional data analysis, network analysis is another of our specialties, shape data analysis, spatial analysis, biostatistics, survival and longitudinal data analysis, causality, data privacy, many things. And I invite you to simply peruse our website, learn a little more about our faculty and our programs, and I hope that you will consider applying for our openings. With that, I want to open things up for our panelists. Our first panelist today is Dr. Kate Calder. Kate is the chair, and she's a professor in the Department of Statistics and Data Sciences at the University of Texas at Austin. Dr. Calder, in her own research, pursues Bayesian modeling and computation, spatial and spatiotemporal statistics, multivariate analysis, and network analysis. Dr. Calder received her PhD in statistics from Duke University. Kate, would you please take over?
Great, thank you. First, I'd like to thank all of you for coming and thank NISS for organizing this event and inviting me to participate. It's my great pleasure. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview of the department that I chair before the other speakers tell you a little bit about their departments. As Elizabeth mentioned, I am the chair of the Department of Statistics and Data Sciences at University of Texas at Austin. One thing to know about our department is that we're very new. So statistics does have a long history at University of Texas, but there wasn't a department until fairly recently. So the department and the PhD program were actually created in 2014. We've been doing lots of growth over the past few years, and I have kind of a breakdown of our faculty profile right now. Our PhD program is still new, but I think it's getting to be fairly mature. We have about 40 PhD students in residence right now. And we recently started a undergraduate major in statistics and data sciences. It's now in our second year. And for now, kind of steady state is about 150 majors per year. In terms of our areas of strength, I've listed some here, but I would say there are people working on pretty much every area of modern statistics. One thing that has been very much on our mind as we've built this department is an interest in having faculty whose research goes beyond statistics. And that could be in areas of applications. So I have a list of some of the areas in which our faculty do serious collaborative research. But we also have faculty who maybe don't work in what we kind of traditionally think of areas of application, but rather have really strong connections with computer science, with electrical engineering, with math, kind of pushing the discipline and connecting it with developments that are going on in these related fields. In our department, we have a strong emphasis on not only research, but also in statistics and data science, pedagogy, and curriculum. So I've been doing a lot of curriculum development over the past few years. As I mentioned, we started a bachelor's degree in fall of 2022. We also have a large online degree in data science, which we offer jointly with the Department of Computer Science. And then our PhD program still is quite new. When I joined the department about 4 years ago, I was here for the graduation of our third PhD student. Now I've kind of lost track how many we have, which I think is a sign that of the growth. The PhD program, though, is still very new, has a very strong research focus to it. Just a little bit about the university. So University of Texas at Austin is the flagship university in the University of Texas system. This is kind of the iconic image of our tower that is in the middle of campus. We are in a building called Welch Hall. Which has been recently renovated. This is a picture of the atrium on the first floor. And it's right off Speedway, which is the main kind of academic corridor on campus. University of Texas at Austin is a Hispanic serving institution with in a state that is growing in terms of its college going population, which means that there's lots of opportunities for impact and kind of diversifying the university and the workforce in the state through the work we do here at University of Texas at Austin. The Department of Computer Science is one of the best in the nations here. And we are very fortunate to be in the same college as them. And they're incredibly supportive of our growth, which I think has been a real advantage to us over the past few years, is rather than kind of having internal squabbles over who owns data science. They have definitely helped us, I think, achieve what we have so far. And then lastly, in terms of the environment, Austin, if you don't know, is kind of a tech hub with lots of startups and existing companies, which are a nice benefit to the university. Austin, Texas is kind of a really fun place to live. It's both a big city with lots going on, but it's situated in a very beautiful part of the country, in the Texas Hill Country. So there's a lot to do. Austin is the live music capital of the world. We love our food trucks, and one of, strangely, our best recruiting tools is the breakfast taco, which people here just absolutely love. So, a question, are we hiring? Yes, that's why I'm here, is to tell you about our department, and yes, we're hiring. We have multiple positions, this year at the assistant and associate, levels. Our official published deadline is today, but, it is not too late to apply. This is just when we were hoping to have, applications in to start the review process, but if you submit in the coming days, or within the next, I don't know, week or two, your application certainly would be given consideration. What are we looking for in job applicants? Well, for assistant professors, and I guess associate professors too, we're interested in people whose research interests complement and extend existing strengths of our faculty. So we don't necessarily want to, hire somebody who's exactly identical to somebody we have from a kind of research intellectual perspective. Yeah, we just are interested in people who work in exciting different areas. We're also very interested in kind of scientific curiosity and where people want to go. And I would say that's sort of opposed to just hiring based on bibliometrics, so paper count and that kind of thing. We really want, and I think all departments do, they want to hire for people who are going to make an impact over the course of their career. And certainly accomplishments in graduate school are, a sign of that, but they're not everything. And then we're looking for candidates who have a commitment to high quality teaching and mentoring. For more information about our department, I've included our website here. And with that, I will stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Calder. I think we'll continue with our departmental overviews. Next is Dr. Xuming He. He is the inaugural chair of the Department of Statistics and Data Sciences at Washington University. Dr. He is very well known in the field in the areas of robust statistics, quantile regression, Bayesian inference, and post-selection inference. Very challenging area. He strongly supports interdisciplinary research in data science. Dr. He received his PhD in statistics from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. And I invite us all to welcome Dr. He.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth, for the nice introduction. Let me first make sure that I can share the screen with all of you. Okay, I hope that already shows up on everybody's the screen. First of all, I'd like to thank NISS for organizing this webinar. And I really appreciate the opportunity to speak here and to talk about the new Department of Statistics and Data Science at Washington University of St. Louis. So I will start, with a description and introduction of this new department, and also share some of my thoughts on how people as job candidates should be looking for. Now, Kate already talked about her department at UT Austin, and she used the word a new department right there. So I figured I probably need to find a different word to describe our brand new department that just started this year. So the picture you see here is a very nice view of the Washington University campus. So this new department was actually an outcome of the arts and science and also the Washington University strategic planning. And the university recognized the importance of statistics and data science at the moment and wants to invest pretty heavily in this area. And the new department really wants to recruit scholars, not just, trying to do their own research through their own activities and accomplishments, but also through synergistic collaborations with other people various parts of the campus. There are actually 2 campuses at the Washington University. One at the Danforth campus, which is the main campus, where that's also where our department will be. And there's also a even bigger, I think, medical campus just across the Forest Park from the main campus. Now, the picture you see on this screen is actually our new building. This is currently actually under renovation. That's why I'm actually hearing a lot of background noise and with drilling and so on. But hopefully you don't get bothered by that. So we will be occupying, the new department is currently occupying the top floor of the building, and we will also be occupying the top 2 floors by this time next year. So what kind of people we will be recruiting? Well, first of all, I want to say that I actually do not have a specific number of faculty to be recruited in mind. We are trying to recruit as many good faculty as we can get. But over time, I believe that our target will be to hire maybe around 10 faculty members in the first 2 years, and then maybe 2 or 3 a year after that. So the kind of people we will be looking for can be broadly described, in 2 different categories. The first will be people doing foundational research in statistics and data science. Now that area, that kind of a basket might sound familiar to most of you. If you look at the statistics department has been around for a while, you will see a lot of, the majority, I would say, the faculty members can be considered in that category. The people for example, people doing causal inference, people doing statistical learning and AI, especially the statistical aspect of machine learning and deep learning, people doing Bayesian modeling and Bayesian analysis. All these are examples of what I consider to be foundational research areas in statistics. But we are equally interested in people doing transdisciplinary research in statistics and data science. Some of the examples would be people interested in environmental statistics, climate, right? People doing social science at the interface of statistics and social science. And broadly, I will call that social data science. Even people in humanities, like a lot of people now are doing digital humanities, where quantitative methods and data science will play an increasingly important role. Obviously, neuroscience is another area that we will be very interested in, as Washington University has a very strong neuroscience program, both on the main campus and also on the medical campus. So the different, a few areas that I listed here are not meant to be the only thing that we're interested in. I'm just trying to use them as examples to illustrate that we are interested in people who are doing foundational research, but at the same time, we are also interested in people doing transdisciplinary research. If you are interested in both, great, but you don't have to. As long as you are interested in either category, then you are the people that we are looking for. In terms of research, I try to kind of characterize, how we are going to evaluate the applicants, especially at the junior level, but at the same time also at the senior level, because our search is open rank. We welcome people at the assistant professor level, but as well as at the tenured associate or full professor level. So if we think about foundational research, the first category that I described earlier, we will be looking for people with solid training in statistical theory, and also has a track record on independent and high quality research in one of the modern areas of statistics or an emerging area of statistics. Here, obviously, a track record also depends on your seniority, right? So we expect stronger track record if you are applying for our open rank positions, not as much if you are just starting your career. And we also like people to have potential for grant support, especially external federal and state grant support. And over time, as you develop your career, we really want our faculty to show leadership in one or more areas of research in statistics and data science. So this is if you're talking about foundational research. Now, if you're talking about transdisciplinary research, we are looking for people with solid quantitative training. As you can see that I intentionally leave out the word theory, that because the theory can be interpreted in many different ways, and I feel like a quantitative training maybe is a better description of the kind of skills training that we are looking for. And you should also be interested and fully engaged in a particular domain of scientific and societal importance. Whether it's medical research, whether it's environmental research, whether it's political science, if you have a well-defined domain of applications, you should be interested in fully engaged in that area. And you also need a track record in statistical applications where impact is the key word. It's not necessarily that you are publishing in traditionally viewed as the top journals in statistics. If you are publishing other impactful journals in science and in other areas, that's really great. And we like people to be able to work with researchers across disciplines. It's not like you will be just sitting in your office and doing your own work all day. So I hope that I'm giving you the kind of our review criteria as we evaluate candidates for our positions. Obviously, there are some other factors I just want to mention very quickly. Our faculty, it's not all about research. You need to be able to teach students at different levels, both at undergraduate and graduate level. And you need to be willing to contribute to a collaborative and inclusive environment and motivated to learn new things as you develop your career. Also, willingness to adapt to local and regional culture and climate. A few words about Washington University in St. Louis. Now, sometimes people get a little bit confused. In this country, we have Washington University in St. Louis, we have University of Washington, we have George Washington University. Many universities bear the name of Washington. So Washington University in St. Louis is actually not in the city of St. Louis, but it's on the edge. Okay, so I would say mostly it's in the St. Louis County. It's a private school with about 8,000, a little bit over 8,000 undergraduate students, and also a little over 8,000 graduate students. Why the university is able to make big investments in our department in statistics and data science? The endowment is a critical component. The Washington University now is in the top 12 biggest endowments of all universities in the country, and has a very, very well-known medical school. By I think the US News and Ranking, probably it's in the top 5. And the main campus I mentioned is also called the Danforth campus, is just beyond the western edge of the city, and next to the Forest Park. For those of you who do not know Forest Park, you might know the Central Park in New York City, and Forest Park is even bigger than that. I think it's one of the biggest urban park in the country. And since St. Louis area has clear seasonal changes, it's getting hot and humid in the summer and cold in the winter. But if you worry about snow, I haven't been here for a full winter yet, so I don't have first-hand experience, but I looked it up. If you compare amount of snow each year, say with Boston gets an average about 50 inches and St. Louis gets about 18 inches. Give you an idea of what winter looks like, especially for those people on the West Coast. There's really not too much to worry about in the winter here. And the St. Louis metropolitan area is actually quite big, with currently 2.2 million people. And the airport has direct flights to 67 cities. So it's a place with a lot of people would like. Now, just in general, I think we will be discussing this in a panel as well, but so let me go very quickly about what, if I were a job candidate this year, what kind of things I need to think about for myself. is this the right place for you? Now, Washington University might be the right place for some, but not for all. These are the things I would personally consider important when I choose a place to go. Obviously, the university reputation and the vision of the department. The vision of the department you can typically find out from the department website and also by talking to people in each department. Collegiality and mentorship in the department is very important. Quality of the students, both undergraduate and graduate students, should be a very important factors to consider. And also how much the department, the university will support the faculty as well as the students in terms of the facilities they have, the startup package they can offer. Also a balance of teaching and research. I think we all, why we choose to go to academia, we love teaching. So research and teaching, right balance that suits your particular needs is a very important factor. And obviously location right now will be schools for your kids, climate, accessibility and location could be important for some, but maybe less important for others. So I think I will stop sharing here and we'll be happy to answer more questions later. Go back to Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, Dr. Head. Yeah. So our third panelist today is Dr. Michael Hudgens, who is a professor and chair of the Department of Biostatistics at UNC Chapel Hill. Oh, yes, thank you for putting your slide up, Dr. Hudgens. He's experienced in collaborative research and statistical methodology development related to primarily studies of infectious disease. Dr. Hudgens received his PhD in biostatistics from Emory University. Professor Hudgens, would you please give us your overview?
Thank you, Dr. Slate. And thank you, NISS, for organizing this session and the invitation to participate. As Dr. Slate said, I'm representing the Department of Biostatistics here at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. A little bit about our department, quite different from the other two departments you just heard about. First and foremost being that we're a biostat department, which of course is where all the fun is. We're also a large and old department. We were founded in 1949. Our department consistently ranks in the top 5 amongst biostat departments throughout the country. In terms of doctoral degrees granted, we are the largest program in the U.S., having granted 236 PhDs in the last 20 years. Our master's degree program is also fairly large, but not as large as some other master's degree programs throughout the country. And we are one of the few departments in the country that offers an undergraduate degree in biostatistics. We started that in 1978. And far and away, we're the largest program in terms of BSPH students graduating. That's a picture on the right of the department many moons ago. We don't have ashtrays on the conference tables anymore. We are within, so we're a department within a school, in particular within the Gillings School of Global Public Health, which is one of the top public health schools in the country. In terms of sort of the current state of affairs within our department, we have approximately 290 students. Most of those are graduate students, about 90 undergrads, 70 masters, and roughly 130 students in our doctoral programs. We have both a PhD and a DRPH program, DRPH being a doctorate in public health, although we are currently not admitting any more students into our DRPH program, so that's on pause. In terms of faculty, we have roughly 40 faculty members, with about 3/4 of those having a primary appointment in our department, and then another 9 who have primary appointments in other departments, including the Statistics and Operations Research Department, Genetics Department, Dentistry, and so on, and with secondary appointments in bios. We also have 20 adjunct faculty members and 11 emeritus faculty members. In addition, we have approximately 100 staff within the department. These are research and business office staff that include research specialists, data scientists, programmers, and statisticians. Many of our staff are housed in our Collaborative Study Coordinating Center, which is a very large center within our department that specializes in multi-center clinical trial conduct and multi-center observational study conduct. Our research budget fluctuates from year to year, but it tends to be between $30 and $40 million per year. Last year, it was $37 million, with about $5 million worth of research dedicated to methodological development, and the remainder focused on collaborative research. So we're a department in a school and a school within the university. So I want to tell you a little bit about research sort of at all three levels as it's taking place here at UNC. So at the university level, there's over $1 billion in research taking place at UNC every year. And that represents a real explosion in research relative to, say, 15 years ago. Makes us one of the top 10 research universities in the country in terms of federal research dollars. A lot of that research is in public health and biomedical research, with the funding coming from NIH. Particular strategic research priority areas for the university include cancer, data science, infectious diseases, the environment, and precision health. So you can imagine, with all of that research money coming into the university, and with these priority areas, this is really a great place to be a biostatistician today. Within the school, we have about $200 million worth of annual research taking place. That makes us the #1 public school of public health in terms of our NIH research funding. We are a state university, so we very much respect the mandate that we have to serve the state of North Carolina. We do research in all 100 counties within the state. But we're also in the Gilling School of Global Public Health. So our research has a global reach as well, with research conducted in 47 countries on 5 continents. The strategic priority areas for the school in terms of research are listed here, and you've highlighted machine learning, data science, and precision health, just highlighting the importance of those topics in our department within the school's research mission. Within the department, our students and faculty are engaged in research with collaborators throughout the School of Public Health, as well as the other health affairs schools here on campus, including the School of Medicine, pharmacy, nursing, dentistry, and so on. Within our department, there are different labs and centers that the research is organized around. I mentioned earlier the CSCC, which is a large center within the department doing collaborative work. We have a laboratory for innovative clinical trial design and conduct led by Professor Joe Ibrahim. Hung-Tu Zhu leads a lab on imaging and genomics analysis. Michael Kosarak leads a lab on precision health. We're deeply engaged in the North Carolina Translational and Clinical Science Institute. That's our CTSA. We have a major cancer center, comprehensive cancer center on campus, and there's a very strong connection between our department and the cancer center. We have a causal inference research lab. Tanya Garcia's lab. There's a love lab, which may or may not be what you think, and many other labs and groups within the department. In terms of job openings, we're currently doing 3 searches and could hire up to 4 faculty positions. We have 2 tenured or tenure track slots, so that's an open rank search. So we invite both early career folks, but also maybe if somebody's a little further along in their career and looking to make a switch, consider UNC. We have a tenure track assistant professorship search going on that's joint with the Department of Genetics. And then our CACC is also doing an open rank fixed term search. We also have multiple postdoc and non-faculty positions as well that are open, but my understanding is the intent of this session was really geared towards folks who were probably looking for an assistant professor position. So if you were to join our faculty, as I said before, we have about 40 faculty members. For our assistant professors and our associate professors, we have a formal mentoring program where each assistant professor is paired with 2 individuals that are more senior in the department that form their mentoring committee. And that ensures that all of our early stage faculty members are getting the mentoring that they need. We also are very transparent about expectations for promotion for all of our faculty members, regardless of track or stage. And that's posted publicly. I've given the link there. And I think that's very helpful for folks who are starting our department to know exactly what sort of expectations are in place for their appointment. A little bit about where we're located. We are in the middle of the state of North Carolina, within the so-called Research Triangle. So the triangle has vertices at Chapel Hill, which is where we are, Durham, which houses Duke, and then Raleigh, which includes NC State. So we have 3 great universities making up the triangle. And then in the middle of the triangle, there's a Research Triangle Park, which includes many great employers for our students, so industry, pharma, contract research organizations, CROs, and nonprofit organizations as well. So a lot of really exciting research in the triangle. And then the airport, our airport is there as well, which, as was mentioned by the previous speaker, is an important consideration. It's nice to live near an airport where you can get to many other destinations easily. We have direct flights to the West Coast, direct flights to Europe. Very easy to get up and down the East Coast from Chapel Hill. And then the state of North Carolina itself is absolutely beautiful. In the west, we have the Appalachian Mountains. And then our East Coast is from top to bottom is just completely beautiful beaches. So it's really lovely. And in Chapel Hill, you're just a few hours away from both the mountains and the coast. And then, yeah, finally, this is our building in the lower left. And we're on the beautiful campus of UNC, one of the oldest state universities, one of the oldest public universities in the country. It's really beautiful. And Chapel Hill itself is a charming, small college town. So with that, I'll stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hudgens. That was great. Thank you, all 3 panelists. I'm looking for a little guidance here. If there's a large number of questions from the audience, maybe we should tackle some of those, or else we can just address some of the questions that were advertised that we would address. I believe the way to put your question is, yes, in the Q&A window. So there is one here. Why don't we address this one? So it says, from a postdoctoral fellow in biostatistics at Columbia, question 1. Can you tell us more about opportunities to study biomedical data using deep learning? For example, supports on computing infrastructure and scientific questions or data sets that your department has as a focus. So it's sort of a question about computational infrastructure and whether you're using that to address deep learning in specific applications. Let's start with that one. Who would like to go first? Dr. Calder?
Sure, I can take a stab at that. So I think I'll address the first part kind of more broadly, because I think a lot of people's research is very computationally intensive. So like many universities, we have a large supercomputer center that is on campus, known as TAC. Has some of the fastest and best computing resources in the world. And one of the nice things about having it locally is that faculty can provide input in terms of how it should grow and how should it expand. And a lot of emphasis is kind of over the past few years has been focused on, enhancing the resources for GPU computing, which is so important for many types of machine learning. It also has facilities to be able to work with highly confidential data, so HIPAA data, and even more sensitive data than that. So that's kind of an environment where there really are tons of resources. In terms of the department, we also, obviously not to the same extent, but have computational resources and support for kind of more local computing and for, say PhD students who are not ready to kind of be working with the supercomputer center. But maybe I'll pass it to some of my other colleagues here who have more to say.
I'll be happy to add a little bit more. I think these days, if you talk to pretty much any statistics or biostatistics department, ask about the computing infrastructure and so on, I think they will all tell you, yes, we definitely have high performance computing, clusters and so on. I think that the key here is, if I were looking for a job, the key thing to consider right now is to find out whether in that particular department or in that school, in that university, who are actually heavy users of those computing infrastructure, and talk to those people and find out their experience. Something exists in a particular place does not necessarily mean how well it works and how easy you can access it. So talking to people who actually use the computing facilities, I think, will be the most important thing to consider.
Thank you. Dr. Hudgens, would you like to add?
Sure. So I would say, first off, in our department, being in the School of Public Health and working closely with the School of Medicine, there's ample opportunity to work with biomedical data. And all of our faculty are engaged one way or another in analysis of biomedical data. So that's what we do. We have, like everyone else, been investing a lot in faculty and infrastructure related to machine learning. We've modernized our curriculum as well. In terms of computing infrastructure in particular, we have high performance computing clusters within the department. That's a strategic investment we've made over the years. Likewise, there are resources available at the university level as well. And depending on the situation, our faculty may be using the departmental clusters, or they may be using the university level resources. I I will say also, I don't think I mentioned it earlier, we now have a new school, one of the newest schools on campus is a School of Data Science and Society. And I think that's a signal just how serious the state is and the state leadership is in investing in data science at UNC. And commiserate with that, there's going to be an investment moving forward in computing infrastructure. While I've got the mic, I'll go ahead and address the second question,
Sure.
Which is whether top journals in machine learning or AI are counted as importantly in the recruitment process compared to stat or biostat journals. And at least in biostat at UNC, the answer is yes. So they're counted equally important. We take a pretty broad view as to what it means to do methodological research. Historically, that I think in our department and probably others, it was a little bit more of a narrow focus on certain statistical and biostat journals. But the world has really changed, and we recognize that, and so now you can be doing really great methodological work, and it can be in a machine learning journal, an AI journal, a genetics journal, imaging. So we respect that, and what we look for is excellence in whatever the area is that the faculty member is working in.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to weigh in on this question about the relative importance of journals for machine learning versus stat or biostat?
Yeah, I'll say just ditto for that. Maybe one thing to add is I would say that also carries forward with grant funding in terms of we know that research profiles look very different, and for assistant professors, what funding records will depend on the type of research that people do. So that's also an important consideration. But yeah, I would say in general, I think our field is much more kind of open-minded and inclusive in terms of research profiles than it was historically.
Yeah, I totally agree with the two panelists have already said. I think in our department, we particularly actually welcome researchers with impact. So I think impact is the main criterion rather than which journal that you're published in. Which journal you're published in, whether it's a top journal or not, depends on particular area that you're working on. So I would not add more to that.
Thank you very much. I can say I concur completely from the FSU perspective. So thank you on that discussion. There's another question here. As a current PhD student whose goal is a tenured track position in statistics, how should I approach the decision to do a postdoc after graduation?
I can take a stab at that. So I think that's a difficult decision, and I think you should know that you are likely not the only person who is kind of debating that right now. And I think the answer sort of depends on a lot of different things in terms of, does a postdoc sort of work for you in your stage of your life and your career? I also think that you should kind of think about in terms of deciding whether you should do a postdoc is simply, are you ready to jump into a tenure track position where research is certainly very important, but there's also going to be other constraints on your time, teaching and other things. And do you think you would benefit from additional time to kind of develop your research and transition from being a graduate student to a faculty member? And for many people, the answer is yes, but it's not the answer for everybody. I would say for our faculty right now, it's probably about half did postdocs and the other half didn't. So both are welcome, and we're well aware of the fact that profiles will look different depending on whether people have done postdocs and not. Again, mentioned, I think all universities kind of hire on potential for, where is somebody going to go with their career and what kind of impact are they going to have. And yes, there could be more data available for somebody who's done a postdoc, but that, isn't necessarily everything. One, word of caution is I don't usually recommend that people just kind of loosely try out the academic job market. That is a strategy that some people recommend. So just apply to a few places and see, if you get a job or get an interview and, use it as experience. Sometimes that works out okay, but oftentimes it doesn't. So for instance, you get a job at some place that you don't really want to go, and then you're kind of put in a really hard decision of whether to take that or not. And also applying for faculty jobs is a lot of work. Writing your statements, going around giving talks and that kind of thing. So whenever people ask for my advice in general, and I realize that circumstances can be different depending on the person, is, I think you should decide when it's your time and apply, go all in when you do it and find the right job for you, as opposed to just kind of, dipping your toes in the field just to see if something. But I imagine there's different opinions on that. So I'll turn it over to Mike.
Yeah, I will also share my thoughts. I think the key for a PhD student is to decide whether you are ready to jump into the tenure track job, right? If you feel like additional years of research and training would prepare you better, I would definitely consider a postdoc. And one way to to help you decide is talk to your mentors, talk to maybe several mentors that you can find, and usually they can look at where you are and provide you an assessment. Now, the second factor here is what kind of postdoc position you can find. Not all postdoc positions help you a lot in developing your career. And also, when you have, say, a couple of years of postdoc experience, when you apply for a job, at that time, you should realize that people who are trying to hire you have a slightly higher expectation, right? So you should be able to meet a higher expectation after a couple of years if you do decide to do a postdoc. Also, there's a recent trend. I don't know whether it's good or bad for academic departments, but the one recent trend is people, if they're ready, they go out on the tenure track job market and secure a position first, and then negotiate with the department who has decided to hire you and say, can I take a year off and start my job next year? And if I can find a good postdoc mentor to work with, and that, my experience is for some people that has worked out really well. But this is a new trend, and it's not completely up to you. I guess it's up to the discussion and negotiation between you and the department who's going to hire you. Okay, I will stop here.
Thank you. Dr. Hudgens, did you want to weigh in on postdoc versus no? Okay.
Yeah, I think the two responses so far have been absolutely spot on. So I don't have anything to add.
I agree completely. So the next question in our Q&A window is about, are any of your programs interested in research pertaining to statistics education in order to get more students interested in statistical careers?
Maybe I can answer from WashU perspective. I don't think we currently have a tenure track position, just on statistical education. But we certainly like to people who are interested in statistical education as part of what they do. So besides tenure track positions, I think lecture positions are now also very common in Department of Statistics or Statistics and Data Science. Like our departments at the same time, we are looking for many tenure track position faculty members, also looking for lecturers who can teach statistics at the same time. If the person is interested in statistical education, we can discuss, what career path might be the best for you. So you may check that out. Yeah.
We also have a sort of teaching track in our department. And there's a pathway to promotion. So you start as a teaching assistant professor and then teaching associate professor and so on. And the folks who are on that track are expected to publish a little bit, not as much as a tenure track person or a research track person. But one possible avenue for publication is to write about statistical education. Maybe an experience with a flipped classroom, for example. We do not, all that said, we do not, unfortunately, we are not able to give our students much opportunity to teach, much training in teaching. I think that's more common in stat departments that have a large undergraduate teaching responsibility. We do not. So our students may get a little bit of experience as a teaching assistant, as a grader, but it's pretty rare that they are given the opportunity to serve as an instructor for a course, for example. Kate, I don't know if you have anything you want to add.
Yeah, I'll just add, I mean, in principle, there's no reason that somebody with a research interest in statistical education couldn't apply for a tenure track position in our department. And we have faculty members who that are tenured, and that is a part of their research profile. I would say that, it has to be very serious, high quality research that, is incredibly impactful and kind of groundbreaking. We also have, we have lectures, but we also have what we call at UT professional track faculty members. And so this is a faculty position. It's there's pathways to promotion, and they're designed to be careers. Teaching load is heavier than it is for people who are on a research or tenure track, but that is often a possibility for people who are very passionate about teaching and want to maintain a research program in statistical education. One of the things that we've done recently is started to provide discretionary funding accounts for people who are on that path, so that they are able to present their research and kind of really engage with that, traveling to conferences and hiring undergraduate research assistants to pursue that path. But I will say, I don't think that there's, at least in our department, there's any reason why somebody with those interests couldn't apply for a tenure track position.
Thank you very much. Yes, that was a great question. So moving on, we have two embedded questions from one attendee. The first one is, what are the top 3 questions you would ask of a candidate in a tenure track position? I understand for some places there's sort of banks of interview questions. That's not my experience at FSU, but I'm curious to hear, what are your top 3 questions?
I can start. Top 3 questions. I think number 1 is always about your research plan.
Yeah.
And number 2 is your passion. And number 3 is why are you interested in a particular department or university? I think these are the 3 questions I would ask everybody. Now, should we also address the second part of the question, or?
Sure. As long as we're on your institution, sure. So the second part is, are you more focused on PI-led funding, or is co-investigator funding equally important?
Right. So for junior faculty, assistant professors, I think if you are doing statistical research, especially in the foundational research kind of area, I would say yes. We expect at least one or more PI grant. But if your main focus is interdisciplinary research, a co-PI or even co-I will certainly be helpful as well. So I think we expect, at least you will be leading some of your research, and that's why a PI or co-PI grant will be important.
Yeah, thank you very much. Dr. Hudgens, how about from the Biostatistics department?
Yeah, I don't know that I have top 3 questions. I agree. We'd want to know about a candidate's research, both their methodological research and as well as collaborative or applied areas they'd be interested in. I think we'd also want to hear for tenure track positions about their teaching aspirations. What courses would they like to teach? Are there courses that they'd like to develop, for example, something new that they could contribute to our curriculum, which we're always, constantly trying to modernize. In terms of funding, most biostat programs like ours are, more or less a soft money environment. So there is an expectation to bring in a substantial portion of your salary via external funding. We're in a great environment where that's really not a problem for any of our faculty. In terms of whether or not you're PI or co-I, anytime you're PI of a grant, that's certainly a feather in one's cap and smiled upon by the department. But there are multiple pathways to promotion in our department. If somebody's doing outstanding work, but maybe hasn't been a PI on a grant yet, that's usually not a showstopper. I'd say by the time somebody's going up for full professor, there's definitely an expectation that they've played some leadership role on a grant that can, again, take different forms. We see a lot of MPI grants nowadays with multiple PIs. That would certainly count. Also, these sort of large center grants, coordinating center grants have multiple pieces, and sometimes a person might be a PI of a core or a part of a grant. That would also be acknowledged as well.
Thank you. Dr. Calder, any distinctions at UT Austin?
No, I don't think so.
All right. I would say it's similar here at FSU. A junior faculty member should be engaged in seeking external funding and seeking that external critique of what they're doing. And of course, PI-ship is, as Dr. Hudgens said, sort of a very nice feather in your cap, right? But not absolutely essential for successful promotion. So moving on, we have a BB here says, I'm currently working as a lecturer in the Department of Statistics in Ethiopia. My research interest is longitudinal and survival analysis in clinical trials. I want to pursue my PhD. Okay, this is a slightly different topic here. How can I obtain funds to pursue PhD in your organization? I would say the focus of this career fair is more on the next stage, after you would get your PhD. But if any of our panelists would like to quickly respond on that particular issue, you're welcome to.
I would invite a BB to reach out to me directly. We fund almost all of our PhD students, and we welcome applicants from all over the globe. And I think our student population does not represent Africa very well, and so we very much welcome them to reach out to me so we could discuss this further.
Obviously, the area of interest is a great fit for any biostatistics program.
Yeah, even for statistics program, I totally, I will say exactly the same thing as what Michael just has said. So I won't repeat.
Yeah, I think if you take a look at most academic programs in the US, you'll find the contact person for the graduate programs and just start reaching out and see if you can start a conversation. Here's a great question. What should PhD students be keeping in mind so that they are competitive for tenured track positions? Is there a requirement to have published papers? What's competitive, right? How about teaching experience? Anything else?
I'll take a first stab at that. So I guess the first thing I'd say, at least here and many other universities, I'm sure there's no absolutes on anything. You know, I think if somebody has had like zero experience even trying to submit a paper, that maybe is not a good sign. But in terms of counts, you know, it's going to vary depending on you know, the experience that the applicant has had, whether you know, maybe they're part of a large research group where there's just lots of papers submitted, or maybe they publish in a field where time to publication is much faster. So I think review is holistic in a sense, and sort of depends on what the background of the candidate is. In terms of teaching experience, you know, I think somebody at one point said to me that, you know, some teaching experience is definitely good, but a whole lot of teaching experience is, you know, doesn't add a lot to it. An application, I would say in general, that's probably true. But you know, one thing that we definitely keep in mind is that depending on, you know, an applicant's background, they may or may not have had an opportunity to teach. There are some universities where PhD students don't have options to teach. Often a lot of biostatistics applicants or applicants coming from a biostatistics program don't have experience teaching because there just aren't any in their field. So you know, I think if somebody, it's more about kind of having interest and kind of doing things to demonstrate that, you know, somebody would be a high quality teacher. And part of that is just being interested in it and, you know, having an open mind in terms of learning how to become a teacher. There's other things though, for example, with an applicant from a biostat department. I mean, having experience in, you know, collaborative research or even consulting and you know, even having a letter that speaks to somebody's ability to communicate ideas to non-specialists. Again, that's a really good sign that somebody will be a good teacher. So in general, I mean, my advice, I think personally, the most important thing in terms of somebody's application is really their letters of recommendation. I think you want letters from people who know you well. I don't know if it's a trend, but I've seen over the past few years people applying for assistant professor positions with letters that kind of look like promotion and tenure type letters, where it's somebody who is describing the work and the importance of the work, but doesn't know the candidate at all. In my mind, that's not helpful. You know, I would, you know, rather have, you know, a good letter from the advisor, but also maybe just another faculty member at the candidate's institution who who knows the candidate, knows, you know, about what their contributions are, how they've contributed beyond just their own research, and, you know, can speak to things like collaborative ability, initiative, that kind of thing that are really so important.
I think Kate has touched upon many aspects of answering this particular question. I would just also add that the number of papers is not important, at least in our evaluation. It is that whether you have a really good job market paper to kind of showcase the research that you have been doing. That's the most important part. You know, even if it's not published, if you have a great piece of work, you should talk about it in your cover letter and hopefully also in the letters of recommendations. Another thing I want to emphasize is you know, the evaluation of a particular job candidate does not just stop at on your CV, right? If you have a chance to, you know, say a screening to Zoom interview, that's also quite common these days, and also a real interview, how engaging you are, and how passionate you are about academic will be equally important. Sometimes we have seen great researchers, a lot of papers published on CV. You talk to them, they don't tell you very much. You know, like they're so quiet, and that's usually not very positive sign. I think I will see whether Michael would agree with that from a biostatistics perspective.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And I think it relates to comment Kate made also about not too much emphasis being placed on teaching experience. I think, you know, during the interview process, in particular during the job talk, you can really get a sense of whether or not somebody is going to be a good teacher. So for that reason, we're not usually too worried about teaching experience, but we are absolutely, when we interview someone, asking the question whether or not we think they could be a good teacher. And that comes across right away in the very first interview. It comes across then on the day they visit and during the job talk. So I do think that's very important. Letters are important as well. Yeah, the papers that come out of one's dissertation are really need to be of highest importance. But these other things are important as well.
Thank you. A few more questions here. I just want to mention to the participants that we're entering our final 15 minutes, so please enter your questions in the Q&A window for us. Does your department encourage or consider candidates who have graduated with a PhD and then worked in a relevant industry for a couple of years?
So I can start. About half of our faculty are fixed term and about half are tenure track. For the fixed term folks, most of them are what we call research track. And for that track, we would absolutely welcome somebody who has industry experience. I think for the tenure track, that would be more unusual unless while they've been in industry, they have maintained a methodological research agenda.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, I think in our case, everything being equal, having the industry experience will be a plus. We will particularly encourage and welcome those who have worked in industry to consider our new department.
Thank you. Similar for you, Dr. Calder? Yes, I would say same thing here at FSU. The catch is only, do you have productivity that's demonstrable in an academic sense from your time in industry? Could you please briefly talk about the timeline and process of recruiting faculty candidates in your department this year? Okay, I think one of you said your deadline was already passed, but please go ahead and get your application in quickly. Dr. Calder?
Yes, I was the person who said that. So I guess from that message, you can infer that our hiring committee has some initial meetings in the coming weeks. Lots of applications to get through. In general, we tend not to share a lot publicly about the timeline, and there's reasons for that. Just we don't want somebody to get a message that they don't stand a good chance, or that they're not a top applicant. And so we share information about the timeline when we have it to share, and as long as somebody hasn't heard, they are still actively a candidate for the position. And as soon as we know that they are not, they will receive an email letting them know that that's not the case. I do think that one of the things that can be most stressful to people who are on the job market is kind of having multiple offers, and which is great to have options, but when they have different deadlines and stuff, that can be a really very stressful thing. This is my personal perspective, is that we should do everything we can to not make put extraordinary pressures on people to make decisions when they don't have complete information. So I advocate very strongly to our administration, my colleagues here at UT, to kind of be as flexible as we can in terms of letting people get the information they need in order to make an informed decision. I have no interest in bringing on a faculty member who was waiting, or could have found out if they had another week if they would have gotten their dream job. I would rather have them really, really want to be here and know that this was the best place for them. I know other departments are more open about sharing their timeline and putting things out there, but really just to kind of be as inclusive as possible and try to decrease some of the stress involved in this whole thing. My personal preference is that once you submit the application, you should just, as best you can, kind of wait, and you'll hear in due time.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think in terms of the timeline and process in our department, it's fairly similar to what takes place in a lot of other departments, in that we typically advertise in the fall, and then review applicants in early winter, and then invite folks to interview and visit the department, usually in January and February, and then with an offer going out shortly thereafter, and then typically people starting in August. So that would be the timeline for the positions that we're looking for right now, with folks probably interviewing in January or February and then starting in August of next year. And I think that's fairly standard across the discipline. One thing I would add is that if you really have your heart set on a department or a few other departments, I would reach out, even if they don't have a search, and just try to make a connection. And you never know. Sometimes if it's a good fit, positions can materialize. Or maybe that they can let you know, well, we're not doing a search now, but we do plan to do a search in 2024. So I would encourage you, just because you don't see an ad, if there's a department that you want to connect with, I would encourage you to go ahead and reach out to someone in that department, and you never know what might happen from those sorts of discussions and conversations.
Yes, thank you. So Dr. Head, let me just ask you, since you said you'll be hiring over the next several years, do you have a specific appointment date in mind, or could it be floating throughout the year?
Yes. So we don't have any deadline since we anticipate it will be hiring every year for the next, say, 4 or 5 years. At the same time, I think we also try to follow the regular hiring season. So we start reviewing applications now, and sometime between December and April, I think this is where most of our hiring interviews and decisions we made for those who want to start in the summer or fall of 2024. But so apply early. My suggestion is to apply early whenever you're ready, but we don't have a deadline. You can apply anytime. We will be periodically, going through the pool of applications.
FSU, of course, is similar. We anticipate reaching a stage for on-campus interviews early next spring, starting in January, I would say. So moving on, a few minutes left, a couple more questions here. How could one make sure there is a distinction between their collaborative work with other scientists published in other disciplines journal and consulting papers on their CV? Some people make separate categories in their publications list on their CV. Let's hear what our panelists have to say.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree you can make categories and organize your CV however you want, but maybe to kind of draw on that question, I think this is the type of thing where the research statement is actually quite important. In my view, the purpose of the research statement is to kind of give a broad overview of the contributions that the applicant has made. And so certainly one of the things that you could do is for papers that are collaborative, that have, real innovation or advancement in statistics and data science, but maybe are not published in a journal that is well recognized by people in our fields, is just play that up in the research statement and make sure that that's clear. And I think that would be totally reasonable. Of course, also, the research statement should touch on future plans. And I think a thoughtful discussion of where the applicant plans to publish would be useful. I mean, I think, it's writing, I'm going to publish 4 papers in JASA and 3 in the Annals of Statistics or something like that's not particularly interesting. But saying that, as an assistant professor, I plan for about 50% of my papers to be in statistics journals, and the other 50% in, top disciplinary journals that appreciate innovation and statistics and data science, such as, and elaborating on that would really impress people reading the file.
Thank you. Okay, I think perhaps Dr. Calder answered that quite thoroughly. Let me skip ahead here since more questions are coming in at the end. What advice do you give for candidates who have deep motivation and passion in developing some fundamental and framework level research that requires long-term development? So I think the implication is the publication rate may be slower than you might desire at the assistant professor, at least the first couple years, because it takes some real effort to develop this fundamental work. Would that be a concern?
I think it's really great if you have a plan to to do some real fundamental work that takes a lot of time. But as an assistant professor, if you have not been tenured yet, I will also take a more practical approach that this is one thing that you want to do it, but at the same time you want to make sure you are making progress that you can have enough to show in annual reviews and also in the third year reviews that many departments actually do, so that you have to be evaluated by other people. You have to provide evidence that of your progress. So I think you have to keep both in mind. If you are showing sufficient evidence of your research, ongoing research, then having an interest to focus on big problems that might take 10, 20 years to complete will be great.
All right. Let's see. So we have 2 minutes left. Let's see. Do you have any concerns about interviewing a candidate who's not in the US? Can you enable that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So apply. Thank you for suggesting to apply early. Can you please provide some suggestions about the application timeline? Is it too late to apply by mid or end of November? I think the general consensus here would be just apply, but of course, don't submit haphazardly put together application materials, right? That will not reflect positively. Other thoughts? Well, I want to just encourage the participants here. This is a really exciting time in our field, statistics and data science. Not only are we pushing forward results in some fundamental new areas within our discipline, this high dimensional data, machine learning, there are fundamental theory that can be developed, but we're also appreciated at increasing rates by the disciplines surrounding us. And we have a potential to really have a huge impact in these other disciplines. So I hope that you will continue to consider your options for an academic career. And I want to reiterate everyone's thanks here for NISS for holding this career panel. It's been quite informative.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, and best of luck with your applications.
Yes, thank you.